I'm Bob Mover, and I'd like to welcome you to our podcast on the real side. And today we have a very distinguished guest. Uh, all of our guests are wonderful, but this man is very special to me. The piano wizard, Kenny Barron, is with us.
Hey,
And hi, Kenny.
how you doing, man?
I'm very well. Glad to have you here.
Thank you. Glad to
And
be here.
yeah, and I just want to tell everybody that our relationship goes back, I think, 56 years to when you were at Jacques with Major Holly.
Oh, yes. Wow.
That I think you got to straighten me on that. Maybe you remember better than I. That was either 1968 or 69, the summer of. That's when we officially met.
Yes, around there, yeah. See, I feel like it was earlier, but
No, because I was 16 or 17.
okay.
And you were 25 or 26, something like that.
Yeah, yeah.
I think you were there. My relationship with Kenny actually goes back a little further than that. Before his relationship goes back with me, I'll tell you how far we go back. Very interesting story. I probably told you this all the time we've known each other, but it's been a while. The very first time my mother brought us to hear jazz, we were visiting New York from Florida for the World's Fair in 1965,
Wow.
summer of 65. And she brought us to the Village Gate, um, and she dressed us all in black turtlenecks and painted a mustache on my, at the time, 7-year-old brother. I was 13, my sister was 10, and we all went down dressed in very beat fashion and went to hear a double bill at the gate. And the bands that were playing that night were Dizzy's band with you and Moody and Chris White and Rudolph Collins.
Right, right.
And the other band you were opposite was Mingus's band.
I remember that.
Yeah, with Jackie Byard and McPherson, Lonnie
Yeah,
Hiller, and those cats.
yeah. I remember
Now,
that.
I didn't even play the saxophone yet. I would start playing the saxophone that year, but in September, the next month, I would start to play the horn. After I heard Stan Getz in concert, that's when I began to play the saxophone. But I couldn't imagine that within the next 3, 4 years, I would be playing with you and I'd be playing with Jackie Byard. Those people, you were just, it was such a far away thought. I would be actually, actually sharing music with you guys was so. And then the other thing that I can't go back to you with, and then I'll let you talk, is my first jazz record that I bought. I went to the Jefferson department store in Miami to try to get a Charlie Parker record because we didn't have Charlie Parker. We had some other records. We had Lester Young. My parents had some records, but I'd read about Bird and I heard about him and I didn't know. So I went and they didn't have a Charlie Parker record, but they at the department store. This was Miami in 1963,
Wow.
and they said I would have to go into the black neighborhood, Liberty City, or a place like that, to probably find that kind of music, which was unusual. That or at least I don't know whether I would have had to do that, or you could send away. So I ended up sending away for the Bird record and getting it. But I wanted to get something that day, so I bought a Dizzy Gillespie record. They said, I knew Dizzy and Bird were kind of associated together.
Yeah.
So the record I got was Something Old, Something New.
Oh, wow. This first record I did with Dizzy, yeah.
It's a great record. It's a wonderful record. And on one side was tunes by, associated with the bebop era,
Right, right.
bebop, good bait, Dizzy Atmosphere, I Can't Get Started. And the other side had these Tom McIntosh
Yes.
musicians, who was a great composer. And he had these tunes like The Cupbearers and three or four other tunes that, what was it, Afternoon, We played
November afternoon.
November Afternoon. That's right. And yes, 4 or 5 tunes of his, which were wonderful tunes. I remember you told me a story about Dizzy and that on that record.
Yeah. Yeah, we did it at I forget the name of the studio, but it was done at night and somewhere on 7th Avenue.
Uh-huh.
And so we took a break. So Chris White, Rudy Collins, and myself, we decided to walk over to Birdland. And we got a chance to hear John Coltrane and Bill Evans and
Oh,
Clara Ward and the gospel singers.
really?
Yeah,
Opposite each other. They were opposite.
yeah. Three people on the bill. But anyway, when we came back, Johnny Griffin was there just hanging out, and he had a bottle with him.
He loved to drink.
Yeah, but Dizzy could not.
Uh-huh.
Dizzy could not drink. He just couldn't. Some people did intolerant to
And
alcohol.
hold it well.
No, so one drink and he'd be finished.
Wow.
So when we came back, that's when we tackled all of Tom McIntosh's stuff. No, those and the tunes were very very
They're
difficult.
hard.
Yeah, and the first one we started with was November Afternoon, and Dizzy put the horn up to his mouth, and nothing came out. Just air, and that happened several times, and we did, I think, close to 40 takes of that song.
Oh,
Yeah,
more
I
than
started
20.
I started to hate it after.
Oh, yeah, yeah. I imagine so, yeah.
Yeah, but that was it was still a memorable situation for
And
me.
that tune comes out good. Dizzy played the
Yeah,
fiddle on that tune with a cup mute, I think.
yeah, it
And,
came out. It came out.
and, and Moody plays flute on that track, right?
Yeah, yeah, that's right.
Yeah, I mean, I wore the record out, man. I listened to it. I used to actually put on my beret. I didn't play music. I was 11, and I'd put on, my mother had a beret, so I put that on, and I get my dad's trumpet. My dad was a trumpet player out of the case and pretend I was Dizzy. And so I played along with that record. I could sing all the solos, but I would
Yeah, yeah,
play all the time. And you know what was weird about that? Playing the trumpet like that, even though I couldn't really play trumpet, it trained my fingers for bebop rhythms.
yeah. Oh, yeah, yeah,
So
yeah,
I'd be playing Dizzy solos with the right rhythms of the fingers.
yeah,
And, that was just weird. So, but you, I knew all your solos and everything. So by the time I met you, you were like this huge star to me. You were. I walked into the to Jacques, a little bar. And now I was 16 years old, and I've been playing for 3 years, and or maybe I was 17. That's what I was trying to figure out. But anyway, I remember walking in to this club. Well, really a little bar restaurant called Jacques on the corner of Sullivan Street and Bleecker,
yeah. Right next to the gate.
right next to the gate, 1 block
Yeah,
away, Thompson Street, right? So
yeah,
1 block away. And Major Holly, who we got to talk about for a minute, was playing the bass, and it was just a duo. And the funny thing was, I recognized that it was you from the street.
Oh, wow.
I said then, even at that time, I said, that sounds like Kenny Barron, because I knew that recording so well. And
Uh,
I said, oh, that's him. And so I was all excited. I came in to listen to you guys, and I always had my horn with me. And I struck up a conversation with Major Holly, and he said, well, why don't you play with us? And so I got out and played with you guys, and you weren't crazy about that idea.
I wasn't.
Not particularly, you know what I mean? You were enjoying your time with Major and having a duet, and now this little kid comes in and plays out a tune and tries to get his shit together on your time. And you weren't hostile to me, but you were not overly friendly. I mean, I understood. I mean, and also that was the way it was at the time. You weren't going to let anybody in easily. I should work for your respect. I can't just get it. I think
Well, I don't know. And I don't think I can't imagine me being hostile in any way.
no, you were very nice.
Yeah, yeah.
You were inhospitable. but I had the feeling that well, maybe it was my own mind, just feeling that, were I you, I would be bugged by this kid coming in to play. But, you tolerated. I came in every week, and, you were nice to me, but you're a shy, kind of quiet person too, you're
Yeah,
not,
I was that. That's true. That's true. Yeah.
yeah, so you kind of came out through the years a little bit more
Yeah.
personality wise. So I think I just took it personally at that time too, because I might have. I think as a teenager you tend to take everything a little more personally anyway.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, but anyway, I do remember that, and people don't know who Major Holly was, and it's a shame. I mean, he did record, and what he was best known for was what they called Slam Stewart style.
Oh yeah. Yeah.
He would bow his solos and sing along with them.
Sing along with them. Yeah.
And they called him the
Yeah.
Mule.
Mule. That's right. Mule.
Yeah, and so you had known him for a while.
Actually, not that long. When I started working with him at Jacques, I hadn't met him just maybe a little before that. I knew who he was, but that was the first time we played together.
Yeah, you guys sounded great. I remember that. And Jamil Nasser would come in sometimes too,
Mm.
and they were good friends. I think he would. I remember Jamil being in there, and Bobby Jones, the tenor player.
Oh yeah, I remember him. Yeah, played with Mingus for a while.
He did.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he was. Yeah. So that was Sunday afternoons. I think you guys played for what, 4 to 7, 3 to 7, or something like that. It was a.
Yeah. Yeah.
And then of course we played together in Sweet Basil, and you ended up on my second record, which
Yeah.
is, we did that for a while. We'll talk about that, but let's talk about, you come from Philadelphia.
Right. Mm-hmm.
That's where, now I noticed on your website, which I kind of looked at, nice website. It's one thing that isn't listed is your birthday. They give your year, but those, when is
It
your,
is not listed.
they don't. I was looking for your actual birthday because I was curious astrologically where you might be placed in the zodiac, and I just always think you're a Sagittarius, but I'm probably wrong.
Gemini.
Gemini. Oh,
Yeah.
huh.
There's two of me.
Yeah, right. At least happy birthday.
Yeah. Well, it's coming up next month, the 9th of June.
9th of June,
Yeah, I'll be 80, 82.
82. Wow.
That's what I said.
Yeah, well, I mean, I'm still saying that I think you were 24 when we met.
Yeah. Yeah.
I was 16 or 17, so you were 24, 25. Now, you had a wonderful tenor player for a brother named Bill Barron,
Right. Right.
who was your senior by a few years, right? He was
17 years older.
17 years older than you,
Yeah. So there's a big difference. Yeah.
and it's the same mother.
Oh yeah.
Yeah, she just had a long
Yeah. I think
period.
I was the youngest of five, and I think I was an oops.
You were the oops.
Yeah. Yeah, because my dad was in he was in the army during the Second World War, you know. So he actually I found a letter uh, when I was a kid that he had written to her when he was at camp in Kentucky or somewhere like that, you know. You know, but yeah, so yeah, he was a soldier, you know. But I like I said, I think I came along very late.
We won't make the joke. Kenny's from heaven.
Oh, Benny's from heaven, yeah.
Remember that was Moody.
Moody,
Moody
that's right.
sang that song, right?
Yeah.
Kenny's from heaven.
He damn sure ain't from me.
Yeah, right. But Wow. So your dad was he a career serviceman or he just was?
No, he just happened to be in the service at that time. But yeah, he actually worked in a steel factory in the Philadelphia area. You know,
Uh-huh.
but he wasn't musically inclined. I mean, he liked music, but he didn't play an instrument or anything.
What about your mom? Was she?
I don't think she played. I never heard her play, but we had an old beat up upright piano in the house. So everybody, she kind of insisted that everybody at least study piano. Uh, um, so I had two brothers, two sisters. They all played piano a little bit, you know. But myself and Bill, we were the only ones the two of us, we became professional musicians.
Right. So you took to the piano lessons right away. You liked it, and you.
I didn't like it right away. Well, what I didn't like practicing. You know,
Uh-huh. Yeah.
'cause I was 6 years old when I started.
I understand. I had a similar experience, but
Yeah, so I wanted to be outside playing with my friends, But gradually, I grew to like it, grew to love it, So I'm very glad about that, very happy about
yeah.
that.
So but they. So you had a regular like a piano teacher who was
I had
uh
a couple of piano teachers. My first piano teacher was actually Bill's girlfriend at the time,
well,
and then she moved to California, and I wound up studying with. There was a lady across the street from me who taught piano. Mrs. Reed was her name. So I started studying with her. I remember the last piece I worked on with her was Edvard Grieg's A minor concerto for four hands.
uh-huh.
Yeah, and then after that, I wound up studying with the sister of Ray Bryant, Vera Bryant, who's the mother of the Eubanks brothers,
Oh, okay.
Kevin and yeah. So I studied with her for quite some time. She was my last teacher.
He was your last teacher. Now, I know that Bill was already probably pretty much out of the house. Well, almost out of the house by the time you were in your
Oh
early
yeah,
years.
he moved to New York. So it
Right.
was
And so what was the first music? Do you remember the first music that attracted you that when you were a little boy? The-
yeah. I remember when I was a kid, we had an Iceman named Jimmy, and Jimmy would come and deliver the ice, and then he would sit down and play. So, and all he could play was the blues, but he did that so well. So that's the first live music I ever heard in my life was the blues. And he would play and sing usually for 15, 20 minutes while the ice melted in the truck.
because he was happy to see the piano.
Yeah,
Is
yeah.
that it? He was happy you had a piano and he just wanted to go
Yeah.
and express
So
himself.
that was the first music that I ever
Wow.
heard was the blues, you know. And then I kind of discovered that I had a fairly decent ear. So I was listening to the radio. And Philly at that time had a really great 24-hour jazz station. And they playing some great stuff. I got to hear like Sun Ra, for instance. They played Sun Ra, the Dizzy's Big Band. And this is when I was, again, a kid.
Well, that's interesting. The Sun Ra would have been one of the first things you hear. And I mean that's a
Yeah, yeah, But the music they played was kind of like Duke at the time.
yeah.
Yeah, it was kind of like that.
Now, what about the popular music of the time? Like the doo-wop music and
Oh, I
the
listened to all of that. I listened to all of that. The Oreos and the other groups named after flowers and stuff.
right, right. That's what I thought. Because I remember the very last night that we closed at Sweet Basil after a couple years of these Sundays and Mondays or 1 week a month
Yeah.
off and on. You and Ben and Buster and I all saying good night, sweetheart.
Oh yeah.
Love you go. And
Oh
yeah,
yeah.
and
But
could have left Sweet Basil and just gone out on the corner and made some money.
that's right. Yeah, but Buster and I used to mess around a lot, just sing a lot of those different songs from because we both listened to them. You know, that was just part of growing up. You know, doo wop. That was part of it. You know.
Right. You know, a lot of people don't realize that was like a real part of the culture,
Oh yeah,
with
yeah,
with
very
young
much
black
so.
people in those days. That was that was yeah. So that's an interesting aspect of things. You know, I think that
Yeah, but
and
we also listened to. I mean, they were other popular singers of the day, like Teresa Brewer. I don't know if you remember her.
Lisa Brewer, sure, and Johnny Ray,
Yeah, Johnny Ray, Little White Cloud That Cried.
right? Yeah.
Wow, yeah, you know. But Teresa Brewer, and this is what she had a hit on this song. All I want to listen to is music, music. Put another nickel in the and all I want to listen to is music, music, music. You know,
Oh,
uh, and I heard that song a lot. You know, it was very popular. So one night I'm laying in the bed, the radio turned on to the jazz station, and I hear this song. Said, damn, it was like piano. So who is that? Who the hell is that? And the radio announcer, that was Ahmad Jamal, a new record, live at the Pershing.
uh-huh.
And I was a fan ever since. You know, and then right after that, they played Poinciana, and I was sold. You
So did
know?
Ahmad play that song, that Teresa Brewer song?
Did who play it?
No, Ahmad.
No, he didn't play it.
He didn't play that. No, no. Yeah, yeah.
Oh no, he did. He did.
Right, he did play that. All I wanted to listen to is
Yeah,
music.
music, music, music.
He
Yeah,
played the Teresa Brewer song. I thought I
yeah,
had that title from somewhere because I remember that at the Pershing record. That was
yeah,
one of those. That was like Errol Garner's Concert by the Sea.
yeah.
You know, those were like two piano trio records that even the Squares bought.
Yes, that's very true. Very true.
You know,
Yeah.
they were yeah, and yeah, that's very interesting. Yeah, there were a lot of singers, Joni James.
Yeah, I remember Joni James. Yes, Patty Page.
Yeah, and Dinah Shore
Yeah,
and singing good tunes. It was like
yeah. They sang great, great songs. You know.
'cause you were really the last generation, the pre-Beatles generation, before while standards were still part of the top 40 on the radio. By the time I came around, like the Beatles came out in 1964 when I was 12. So then that really changed the whole popular radio cultural scene.
Oh, it did. Yeah,
Yeah, I mean, all of a sudden the British, whatever they call it, the British invasion,
yeah,
all of a sudden you had that, and it's still there were still some popular songs and still some Broadway shows going around, but you were the last generation that was a real part of your upbringing as
yeah.
well.
Standards. Yes, yes.
And you'd go and hear a jukebox, and there was something, commercial versions of these tunes that we later played as jazz tunes.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. I remember. Well, one thing. Speaking of jukeboxes, I guess that was 12, something like that. And Horace Silver came out with Senor Blues. It was
Yeah,
6 pieces of silver, the record.
right, right.
And at the time, we didn't have a record player in the house. And
Really?
I heard the song on the radio, and I would go to this luncheonette about 6 blocks away and put my little nickel in the Nickelodeon, so to speak.
How
And it was Senor Blues.
old were you at this time?
I don't know, 11, 12, 13, something like that.
Uh-huh.
You know, but I just fell in love with that song. And also the flip side, Enchantment.
Ah,
And then
it
when
was a
I
piano
found,
trio, wasn't it?
huh?
Enchantment, wasn't that a piano trio?
No.
No, that was the band.
Yeah,
Okay.
that was with Don Bird and I think Hank Mobley.
Hmm.
Yeah, you know. and because that was his band at the time. And then when I heard about the drummer Louis Hayes, who was 18, I said, "Oh, that gave me a little hope," you know.
Yeah, right. That's what you did for me. You know, I heard because you were 18 with Dizzy.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. That's
You
right.
know, and I said, well, you know, there's a you know that's what do they say? Raising the boundary. What's that expression? You know, when the you know the entry anyway, the entrance banner. You know, whatever it
Oh
is.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
Yeah, there's an expression for that, which you know, which I can't think of right now, but raising the bar.
Oh yeah, yeah. Okay.
The bar was, well, that was where you set the bar. The bar was set there. One has to get to that. You know, that was yeah. And so, when did you know that music was what you wanted to do? Did you ever consider any other thing, or how did that come about? That because it was an early decision. Where did you think about any other thing, or was it right away music? And what
No, good. It
what
was always music. It was always music. You know, I never. Unfortunately, I got to play a lot in Philly with some really great guys. There was a saxophonist named Sam Reed, and Reggie Workman was in Philly at the time, and another bass player named Arthur Harper. So I got to play with some really great people.
yeah.
You know, so that kind of that really wet my whistle. And I remember one year I had a friend. He was a drummer, and we decided to just go to New York just to spend the night and hang out because Bill was living in New York at the time. So we went over to see him and hung out for a little bit. And about 11 o'clock, I said, "Well, let's walk up to Birdland." And we were on East Sixth Street.
That's a long walk.
Yeah, but it was fascinating because in Philly at 11 o'clock at night, it's dead. You know,
Right.
it was then. You know, it
I
was.
think it still is.
Yeah,
Always
yeah,
has been.
yeah. You know, when you're walking up to Birdland, there's all these traffic jams and bright lights,
Oh yeah.
and then when I got to Birdland, I remember seeing. I don't remember who was playing, but I remember seeing Max Roach and Kenny Dorham at the bar, hanging out, talking. I said, I'm moving here. I just I'm moving here. You know. Because I really wanted to be there. And a year later, I did. You know,
Yeah, well, that would be how you've always kind of, you know, that's one thing about you, you know, knowing you, you very quietly decide what you're going to do, and you do that. You know, like for instance, I'm skipping around a little, but you know, the idea of you became a very well-known and a very proficient and a very influential educator because you decided, well, it'd probably be good to have a degree aside from all the stuff you were doing. I think you were with Yusef Lateef, and
yeah, yeah,
to
yeah,
to become that. And then you know you in your very quiet way just always did what was really necessary to do, and then it worked out for you.
yeah. Thank God.
Yeah, you know, without a lot of flash, but you just in your subtle, quiet way. Other people make a lot of noise when they do things, and you know, and you just like took, you saw what was there, and you said, "Oh, this would be a good thing to do," and it always seemed like you did it like it was nothing. You know, which is kind of how you play. You know, you make it sound so easy. Whenever I hear you play, I think I could probably do that, and then I know I can't. But I mean, you know, but it sounds so natural that I'd say, yeah. Other cats, Albert Daly, for example, I loved Albert dearly, but he played in a way I could never do that. I
Mm.
knew immediately.
Yeah,
Yeah,
they left much too early, boy.
yeah.
Yeah. Uh, I know when I moved to New York, I moved to New York in '61. You know, and I wound up staying right next door to my brother, 314 East Sixth Street.
Oh, yeah. He's still
Yeah, Yeah, East Village, and
Evelyn Blakey lived around there too.
yeah, yeah, and across um, upstairs, baritone from Detroit, white cat, Pepper Adams,
Adam.
and Elvin shared a pad together.
Uh-huh.
So they lived upstairs, and across the street was a bunch of guys from Philly, Lee Morgan and Spanky DeBrass, Reggie Workman, sharing a pad. And up two doors up from there was Ted Curson and his wife. So it was a great neighborhood, man, to be in at that time.
Oh yeah, it was.
I could walk to the Five Spot. I could walk to the Jazz Gallery. So it was in a lot of coffee shops. There was a lot of music around, a lot of music. So
Yeah,
that was great for me.
I can imagine so. Yeah, that's I just kind of caught the tail end of that.
Yeah, yeah.
I was there in that time, 68, 69. There were still some places, the East Village Inn and
Oh, yeah, yeah. Mm.
Pee-wee's and a few places, but it wasn't quite as, I don't think it was, I think 62, 63. That period was the most lucrative time for the East Village. I mean, well, there was Slugs. There was still
Oh,
Slugs,
yeah.
which,
It's lovely Far East.
right, and Far East, yeah. And, but also in Philadelphia now, was Bobby Timmons from Philly?
Yeah, Bobby's from Philly.
So
Mhm.
did you get to hear him like coming up and have any,
No, I didn't know him in Philly. I didn't meet him until I moved to New York. But it was interesting because I had in junior high school, I had a music teacher. And one day we had a substitute teacher who was African American, and she started talking about jazz. And he said, "Oh yeah, and I have a cousin who plays with Chet Baker. His name is Bobby Timmons." Because I didn't know who he was at the time, but I finally got to meet him in outside Birdland. That's when I finally got to meet him.
really, yeah.
Yeah.
I met him when he played at the Needle's Eye.
Woo, yeah.
That was another
Yeah, I'm at Little West 4th Street or something.
Little West Fourth Street. That's right, in the meat packing district,
Packing District. Yeah, wow.
right in the middle of nowhere. Charles Davis used to take me down there, and we'd sit in. I met Walter Bishop there, and he'd let
Yeah.
me sit in. They, these little places, and Bobby let me sit in with him one night, and he was very nice to me. The only guy that didn't let me sit in was Monty Alexander.
Oh, yeah.
He didn't want anybody sitting in, which was all right. I respected that. But everybody else, was kind of because Charles Davis kind of took me under his wing
Yeah, yeah.
and brought me around. And do you remember Amos, that place on 21st Street
Oh, yeah. He was a black guy from Holland or something.
from Dutch Guiana?
Dutch Guyana, yeah.
He was the bartender at Slugs,
Yeah.
one of the bartenders, and he had this after hours.
I remember that.
Do you remember that?
It's upstairs.
Yeah, because I remember you from there. I mean, I remember one night you, Bobby Timmons, Cedar Walton, Walter Bishop, and Wynton Kelly all being in the same place.
Wow.
Yeah, I remember.
Well, I was
And
surrounded by royalty. Boy.
you were, well, yeah, well, you were part of that royalty, and
Wow.
so were, so I mean that was just the piano players.
Yeah.
I mean, the saxophone players, the drummers. I was 17 years old, and they would let me play. They let me sit in. Nobody threw me off the bandstand. I was, I was happier, happy as you could be.
Well, that's because you could play.
Yeah, well, thank you. Yeah, enough to, you know, one night Freddie Hubbard thought I was Jackie McLean. I had my back turned toward him,
Oh, really?
and this guy kept going, "Yeah, Jackie Mack, yeah, Jackie Mack." And like, I was kind of fat, and Jackie was a little bit chubby at the time, and we look a little bit alike, from profile or something. I mean, I don't know, but I turned around, and Freddie said, "You're not Jackie Mack." I said, "No," and I wasn't even consciously imitating Jackie, but I probably sounded something like him. I'd heard him, and he was
Yeah, yeah.
liked, and but I was there, and but to get to play with those people, you'd hear Freddie and Woody Shaw, and Kenny Dorham was always there.
Oh, yeah, yeah, yeah.
Was always up there, and it was just such an enlightening experience, to just be near you guys. That it stays with me forever. It was you know quite a
Well,
thing.
I remember those gigs I did with you, with like at Sweet Basil's.
Yeah, we had a ball. I mean, I
Yeah.
saw, how you got on that gig was funny. That I had fired so many rhythm sections.
Oh, yeah.
My first time being a band leader, and and I didn't actually fire everybody, but I went through a few, you know,
Yeah.
uh, and I couldn't seem to find what I wanted. I mean, I was looking, and I was 24 or something, and as my first, that was very young to be a leader at that time too, right?
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
And so Dwayne, Dwayne Tedford, one of the two owners,
Yeah, yeah.
Dwayne and Blaze, saw me going through this all the time with like, and then he said next week don't hire anybody. I got a band for you,
Oh,
and you know, so I came into work, and you and Ben Riley and Ron McClure were there.
Ron McClure. Yeah, yeah.
Yeah, it was the three of you because Dwayne and Ron were real friendly with, and so he wanted to give Ron something. Ron's great too, but yeah. So he said, Dwayne said, if you can't play with these guys, then you better think about another profession.
Oh, boy. Yeah, it
So
was fun. I enjoyed that, you know.
yeah, well, I was very honored. I'll tell you one thing. I was very honored when you told me we did this record together, which was just called Bob Mover on Vanguard,
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
and and we even got radio play and everything, but it turned out the company was using it as a tax write-off, so they tried to lose money on it.
Uh,
It broke my heart because it was a really good record.
yeah, it was.
But when you told me years later, you said, "Do you know we did that record like 5 years ago, and the cassette is still in my glove compartment. I still play it and listen to it.
Oh, yeah.
The fact that you listened to that record that we did, like it's really,
It was a very good record, man. Very good. It was
yeah,
great.
you
Yeah,
know,
you know.
yeah, it was such. We actually were a working band, and that was the only time I really got to record with a band that had actually been working.
Yeah, it worked. Yeah, yeah,
So
yeah.
we sounded like it. And Ben Riley also. Let's talk a little bit about Ben Riley. How did you meet Ben Riley? Tell me about your relationship with Ben.
How did I meet Ben? Wow. Well, I guess first time I played with Ben was with I think it was with Ron Carter.
Oh,
And it may have been even before that. Maybe it was something with Phil Woods. Maybe I think theater that actually with Phil Woods at the Vanguard. I think it was Phil Woods and David Williams and Ben. Yeah, and then Ron decided to put a band together, but with the two basses, with Buster and Ron, and Ron was playing piccolo bass.
Ron would play that piccolo bass. I remember that.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. So we traveled a lot, went to Europe quite a few times, and I love playing with Ben.
Yeah,
And
well, I could feel that. In fact, that's when I got you guys. You were actually Ron Carter's band.
yeah,
When you weren't traveling with Ron, you became my band at Sweet Basil.
yeah,
We did every Sunday and Monday. I did for about 2 years almost, every Sunday
Mm,
and Monday, or 1 week a month, whatever
yeah,
it would give us. And you guys became my band first with Ron McClure, and then Buster took over.
yeah.
And we either had Tom Harrell or Claudio Roditi.
Oh, yeah, that's right. Yeah,
Sometimes we were quartet, but toward the end, but at the beginning, it was Tom Harrell and Claudio.
yeah.
And I noticed also that you've done a lot of stuff with Brazilian music in your subsequent career. You've recorded quite a lot with Brazilian musicians and got really. Have you made many trips down there, or? Uh,
I've been to Brazil maybe 3 or 4 times. That's all, But I love the music. I really love the music. And I got a chance to record a record there in Brazil with I guess the Top
Trio de
Call.
Paz?
Huh?
Are they the Trio de Paz they were called, or?
No, that's Trio de Paz I met in New York.
Oh, okay.
But these are guys who were Top Call players in Brazil, in Rio. A guitar player named Lula Gaval, and a drummer named Richie Rafael Barata.
Oh, I know Rafael.
Yeah, and the drummer, I mean, the bass player, I can't remember his name, but and the guy who played harmonica, uh,
Not
he's 90,
Mauricio.
huh?
Not Mauricio Einhorn.
Yeah, he's 93 now.
Oh man, I used to play with Mauricio. I used to go over his house all the time.